She has left the district. The disease will follow the changeling soon, leaving this place. The district, thus purified, will surely make a fine present for the Inquisitor. However, some of the townsfolk will take her for a saint instead of a villain. These places where people are devoted to her are where I must search. I need to find where people are devoted to her. Something to do with the changeling? I mean, sorry, the albino? Is that where I should look? Is that area near where the albino shows up in the bottom corner? Huh. So we have two changelings. And it's interesting to look at here. When you're looking forward to playing the changeling and everything, and you're encountering her in the other campaigns, you would kind of assume that the one you're encountering, like you hear about there being two changelings or something like that, and you kind of would assume that the one you keep encountering is the one you're going to play as. But it seems like the one you keep encountering might be the other changeling, and the one you play as is the less visible one. The one that seemed innocent and naive seems to be the one you actually play as, and the one that seemed rude and kind of insufferable, and also is the version that probably shows up in the final room at the end of the game, maybe, but maybe not, I don't know. The one that seemed to have a bunch of secrets they were keeping and to seem to be manipulating you or looking down on you all the time might be the one you don't play as. Which is a surprise, because that explains some of the whiplash of encountering this character, not knowing what to make of her. I'm about to get plagued. It's too bad it chases me. Oh boy, here it comes. Yeah, sorry, I'm still recovering from the plague myself. Where'd the cloud go? Wait, where did it go? That was weird. Oh boy. Here it comes. The geometry is so confusing in here. They got really weird with it. Oh boy. Oh, the chair! No! Oh god, there's another cloud. Where'd it go a moment ago? It's so frustrating how in this game you get stuck on geometry. What's that? You stubbed your toe on something a little bit? You're frozen in place now. Like if just the corner of your character model rubs up against something a little bit, you freeze in place and you can't escape. It's a really weird system. Did I already loot these? I think I did. But yeah, anyway, to finish the original thought, I have my fair share of qualms with capitalism, just like everything else, really, but it's still easy to find the characters that are from that kind of system more familiar and likable, because you understand how they work at the very least. It's the society that made me and all that, whereas a society of devout people is alien to me. And a society of fascism is terrifying to me. And that's generally what the Saprops feel like they're going for. At least Alexander seems to be a big fan of striving in that direction. So real not fond of him. Or Katerina actually is more comparable to the Canes in a lot of ways. In part because she's actually from the same system overall. I could talk to Grace. I can see if Grace knows anything about the albino, since that's apparently what's going on. And then from there, I might be able to find out who's trying to shelter the other Clara. Because her getting shelter is probably not good. Alright, I'm out of the only plague district. Only took one bad hit. There we go. That was not an encouraging series of meters that popped up when I pressed that button. But I felt like chopping down my infection seems like the way to go. Let's make our way all the way to the graveyard, I guess, and see what comes of that. But yeah, politically, if we want to talk about that stuff, because I've already started now, might as well just keep going, right? Obviously, I'm quite familiar with and at home in a capitalistic society because that's what I've lived with my entire life. But because I've been in it this whole time, I see all the issues that system has. And while I'm not necessarily in a big ol' hurry to revamp into a completely different thing that's totally alien to me, because I've lived it this way for 30 years, almost, I definitely am a... Oh, they repopulated the loot now. I see how it goes. I just see the value in safeguarding and regulations because I think that the inherent way that people behave is just not going to maximize happiness for a society. Capitalism, I don't think capitalism does that. And so having safeguards and protections for people and so on is a good way to handle things. And I don't think that my country does the best job. There's one idea I've always found kind of interesting, which is the idea that in Japan, apparently they tie... there's like laws that are supposed to regulate how much money the CEO can make compared to the rest of the people in the company. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting, because it's not the same thing exactly as a minimum wage or something like that, but hey, Mr. CEO up top, you want to make more money, you're going to have to improve things for your entire company. I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting incentive system. Because that's the thing, is you look at video games, look at how Pathologic shapes my behavior. I have a series of systems that work in certain ways, and they incentivize me taking part in certain behaviors. I will die if various meters drain down, and generally speaking, it's not enough for me to just get enough to get by. Generally speaking, I also just want to maximize how much I can do within my system. I don't want to just be on the edge of survival. I want to have a buffer between me and the threat of what can happen to me. So when I'm playing Prey, I'm going to scavenge as much as I can and look everywhere to find whatever I can find that, well, oh, that's the same guy, right? I'm gonna go grab the stuff around the theater now, since apparently it's respawned. Like, yeah, I'm gonna maximize my scavenging, I'm gonna do what I can, and yeah, you start looking into, like, the more I learn about them, the more I'll start looking into systems where, like, oh yeah, you can loot these houses, and this looter will come at you, you can shoot that guy, and you can go loot all these objects around here, and that's a big upgrade from just grabbing stuff from garbage cans all day. Then you move forward, you're like, oh, with this lockpick, you can sneak around and you can grab all these resources, but you have to watch out for whether or not people are in line of sight and stuff like that. Like, you just are encouraged to do certain things, and so a lot of players will do less ethical things more and more, because if they can get away with it, then it greatly benefits their playthrough. An obvious downside is that if you get caught, you can be attacked and murdered, and also your reputation can drop. And so those are the balances that people think about. Then you have tabletop games and so on like that. Tabletop games as a concept are all about having a bunch of rules and a victory condition, and then seeing how those things manifest. You don't really know a tabletop game and what form it takes and what it means mechanically until you have a chance to play it and then really know what it is. Because the rules are one thing, but seeing how people react to the rules and how those things manifest is the next thing that gets really interesting. Like, I played a game called Suburbia a few times, and on its surface, it's about just maximizing victory points and hunting for objectives and building a city that maximizes those points. But what does it mean to maximize those points? What an interesting mechanic in that game is that so many of the victory conditions are all or nothing. Much like the longest road thing in Settlers of Catan and stuff like that. A lot of, all of the victory points practically in the entire game are all variations of that idea. Like, are you the top industrialist city? Everyone's building their own cities that don't interact with each other directly, but you're all competing with each other on who can have the most of various kinds of things. So you want to be the guy with the most airports, or you want to be the guy with the most industrial buildings, or you want to be the guy with the highest community ranking or population size or something like that. And there's no prizes for second place. And that leads to really interesting outcomes, because that means that in that game, it becomes a game of chicken. It's not enough to just make a really good city. You have to be the best at several things. So you will abandon certain concepts entirely and hunt other things. I've realized that the way to win in Suburbia is to notice which objectives your opponents are going for, and try to hunt the ones that nobody else is going for, or that the most distracted players are going for. The ones that, and then if you can't find an objective nobody's going for, find objectives that people aren't specializing in enough. Because if you hyper specialize in that specific objective, you can swipe it out from under them while they're trying to spread themselves thinner, hunting for like 3 or 4 objectives at once, which they will not get because you can't get them all collectively. Like, behavior is shaped by the incentive system around it, and capitalism is its own incentive system. And an unfortunate part of it is that the people in power in a capitalistic society have very little reason to really do anything other than the bare minimum for the people around them. And so the more power consolidates, the more damaging it can become. And it gets gross from everywhere, from like the workers being abused. You have Amazon employees revolting and going on strike while Jeff Bezos is like the richest man ever. You have people working on Red Dead Redemption and other Rockstar properties and a bunch of other AAA video game companies that never see their families and watch decades of their life get drained away so that they could all hit a quota. And if they happen to work on the project for 5 years but weren't on the project the year it came out, they don't even get to be in the credits, because if you aren't there when the game publishes, you're not even a real person, basically, and all that time you spent on it doesn't count. And then so often the moment that a AAA game is published, the people on said project are just fired immediately, and they have to go find a new job, because if you're in the phase in between game releases, when it's time to make DLC or manage the online community for your game, your incentive is not to keep employees on, because you have to keep paying them, but your project's not currently on that scale, so fuck them. It's a lot of real bad systems.
Have you heard? Turns out the source of the disease is one of us.
So when I see a company push their employees to work 80 hours a week and then fire them the moment the project's over, and give them no help at finding new work and so on and so forth and stuff like that, it's gross. I'm not psyched about it, but at the same time I'm aware that like that's how you win at capitalism. At this game, that's the victory condition, that's the best approach, and that's how you outcompete the other companies and, you know, actually succeed and so on. So both are true. One, yes, you can get mad at the companies that are doing the bad things. I agree with that too. But also, it's worth being aware that the entire system that the companies exist in encourages them to take those exact behaviors. And it's almost like a lose-lose, where if companies don't do unethical things, they get outcompeted by the companies that do the unethical things. And that's why having ground rules and like that's where having regulation on some level and rules on how things can work, and, you know, unions and stuff like that, can make that not as gross. And it's no coincidence that a lot of the top billionaires are people who specifically avoid and discourage and try to stop their workers from unionizing, because the more rights that the actual workers have, the worse off the CEOs are. Anyway, this was a weird podcast. I was just thinking about the different character types, and then we went with that. Maybe it made the walk more interesting, or maybe you're mad that I just spent 20 minutes looking at garbage the way I normally edit out. Have you seen that two-legged creature? Supple-necked, white-faced. It looks human, but also looks like it's about to pass into my care. There have been many like that here lately. What do you mean? That albino from yesterday. It always appears after dark, 3 or so hours to midnight, and today they ran it out of town. The bachelor attacked him. He had tracked it down. He shot at it many times, and hit it, and now it's leaving, forever. So it's still alive. But how do we find and catch it before it's gone? It is still alive. The bachelor has heard it, but it can't be killed. When it appears, it'll be moving outwards, along the abattoir, towards the rotten field. But be careful. What if others also seek to destroy it? What if the bachelor sets up a raid? There are exterminators in the field. I've seen them with my own eyes. How do you know its route? I know everything that has to do with the unliving, and it's not of the living. When the unliving are offended, they always leave by that path into the steppe. Forever. Poor albino. Well, perhaps I'll still manage to meet it. Sister. Not to be confused with little sister. What a naming scheme for these quests. My precious albino, this peculiar alter ego of mine. You think that's an alter ego of ours too? This is getting confusing. Was expelled from the town. This effigy of my indecision, crafted out of someone else's keepsakes, has gone away. Just as it should have done. It walks towards the steppe now, moving through the rotten field. I'll have to get a hold of him if I come by the hanging sacks at 3 hours before midnight. The hanging sacks. I've seen the hanging sacks before, that weird structure. 3 hours before midnight. Why is it so far from now? Why am I not going there now if it's leaving? The timing's odd. Huh. I'll have to wait until really late. That's going to be weird to reconcile with trying to figure out what to do with the main quest. I can talk to Katerina, I suppose. You'll find sometimes I'm more willing to share my more dangerous opinions when I'm in the middle of a very unpopular playthrough that not very many people are watching anyway. Because the people that have been patient enough to get this far are usually people that aren't going to flip out on me out of nowhere when I start talking about things like this. It's nicer to have an adult conversation, not just fucking yell at each other, but that's the first thing people do when you talk about some of these things. Exhaustion's pretty up there, but I'm not that concerned about that right now. Got 2 lockpicks. Not really sure how the rest of this day is going to work out structure-wise. This is weird. Some townsfolk will take her in, it says. But this is still 3 asterisks, implying that the quest is over. I'm not totally sure what to make of that. I could poke around and explore for a bit. I mean, it's still 10 a.m. I still have to do the Alexander quest, but I can probably get away with waiting for a while. Ah, okay. I think I found it. Over here. You kind of stand out, don't you? How's it? Why do I have to wait for you and... Can I talk to you now? We have been waiting for you, Harbinger. We believe you, as do many others. I'll gather the rest. You have been waiting for the Changeling. She is not the one whom you want to serve. Go away from here and never give her shelter. How do you know who we want to serve? How are you now a Changeling? An evil demon is hunting my sister. He's sending the pest after her. If you offer her shelter, the disease will be here tomorrow. We are not afraid. Go away from here, or else I, the real me, will lay a curse on you. Well now, let us go. Show us your miracle. Give us your blessing so that our setup is never discovered and we are not attacked on the way. Bless our feet, Harbinger. Here it is. Go ahead and run away when you know I was right, when I was in the right. Ah! 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 What the fuck? Ah! Do I have to kill them in front of you or something? Is that what's going on here? What the hell? There was no warning for that little bit of crazy. You are the Changeling. We knew someone would come to tempt us. I want to try again. What does that mean? What is happening? How does this work? Like if I... How does this work? What are the rules here? Hello? Why are you looking at a wall, first of all? Aren't you a guard? I can't talk to any of you. Alright. I'm curious, what are the rules here? What is this interaction? Oh, I got attacked by rats? For some reason? The idea is that I need to prove that I'm the real Clara or something? Or something like that. But, What are you? I'm trying to remember. I keep trying to remember. You're like that for a reason. Where shall I take you? Go away from here, or you will be punished tomorrow. The plague is after me. We are not afraid. By the power granted to me from above, I tell you this, go. You don't need the Harbinger. Show us your miracle. No, I'm afraid to. It will drain too much of my power. I think I may even die. Huh. I'm curious. They don't give us a lot to go on how this interaction works. Huh. Maybe you can't win at it, though. Or maybe you can't convince them. I'm curious what the versions are. Yes, I'm the Harbinger. Take me to any shelter. By now. Well, now, let us go. Show us your miracle. Give us your blessing. Or so that our setup will never be discovered. No, it's the same variations. Oh, this is different, though. It's beyond my power. One cannot work miracles just to prove they are in the right. The punishment will be awful. What did that do? Beyond doubt, they are trying to seduce me. Who knows what will happen if I were to give way to this temptation? What is that? You are the Changeling. We knew someone would come to tempt us. This is the punishment for my impertinence. I dared to use my gift for personal gain. Did it give me a quest last time? What the hell's happening? Oops. Untab. There we go. That's for talking to Katerina. And I'm supposed to talk to an albino at 9 o'clock, which is not the same one as the one here, apparently. There's more than one, I guess. These places where they do, yeah. I'm supposed to try to convince them to leave because they're going to shelter her tomorrow. I'm wondering why like there's like a quest update happened this time. You've been waiting for the Changeling. She's not the one whom you want to serve. Go away from here and never give her shelter. I am the true Clara. Here it is. Go ahead and run away when you know I was in the right. Did I just do the lightning? Did I do that? They're running around. I have shown them true power, and the sacred sign has revealed to them through the touch of my hands. From now on, nobody will give shelter to the Changeling. I feel that this part of the town will be pure come tomorrow. Hey, so that, okay. So I was on the right course the first time, but when I said that there was the plague follows my sister, that somehow led to a variation where you don't get through? Which I'm not sure why that is, because it seems correct. I don't know. Everyone's walking around though. Oh, there he goes. He just booked it. Now I see that it really is you. So what you're saying is somebody will appear under your guise and bring us plague. Yes, you have to go. We'll wait for her and make her leave this neighborhood. Tomorrow this district will be clean. Be firm, drive her away even if she curses even if she cures someone in front of you. But why are you an albino? You guys are just fucking accepting that he's here. Like, it's so weird. I don't know how to I just don't know how to like actually reconcile those two story elements. I'm supposed to meet up with the albino at 9 o'clock, and he's leaving the city. But also there's this guy, who is like the guy who hangs out and is like, he's gonna hang out in that district until tomorrow and make sure that she doesn't come here and stuff like that. Like, are those two different characters? Because if they are, then like what's happening exactly? Because that's just really confusing and weird. Always buy bread. Although I would like to find nuts. They don't sell nuts often enough. Maybe the kids scrounge up enough money to grab them when they get the chance. Hello. That's worth a bit, that's worth a bit. Ah, you don't trade for knives though. That's weird. That is kind of weird, you don't trade for knives. Smoked meat. There we go. I am exhausted. God damn. We'll head out through this back path, I suppose. Oh. Here comes danger. Two of them. Hit. Oh. Yay, I still got the killing blow. That counts as mine. Yay. I was gonna be really bummed out if they got him first. Here comes the throw. Yes, he stopped. That's exactly how you want those to go. Thanks for the assist, guys. Ooh, a lockpick. That's the best thing you can find on them, basically. That opens up all new possibilities. You got to go exploring in somebody else's house.